Where should we begin, you guys? Let's just say that there have been a lot of misguided PR operations since Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I think that that is putting it mildly, right? A lot of PR blunders, so to speak. Let's see, there was a Operation He Wasn't Catholic Curious, followed by Operation Candace Hasn't Spoken to Charlie in Years, followed by Operation LOL Egyptian Planes, followed by Operation Debunk Mitch in Fort Huachuca with baby mama drama, Huachuca mama drama. That was a lot. And I guess what I really mean when I use the word misguided is that whoever is in control of these operations has a bit of a lead foot. You know what I mean? Too much gas on the pedal at all times. The immediate force that's being applied to these psychological operations, they go from 0 to 100, has sort of made the panic behind them pretty obvious to us, the public. It feels like there is someone who has a lot of money to spend, but maybe that person who is in control of spending the money happens to be an idiot. Like he's just phoning people up, like, I'll give you $600,000 and have that money transferred in your account with Bitcoin today. If you just say these words, Candace has gone crazy. Charlie wasn't Catholic. Mitch, his baby mama, he's a crazy man. Crazy. Everybody's crazy. The expression used in the UK that my husband uses is rich and thick. That's used to describe a dumbass who has a lot of cash on hand, okay? Now, frankly, I have to say in retrospect, the weirdest operation of all, which still persists today in little pockets of the internet, was Operation LOL Candace Has Dreams. Why did she talk about her dreams? How dare she discuss her dreams? Only weird people have dreams and then tell others about them. Ugh, dreams are ridiculous. They shouldn't be listened to. So the question becomes, who exactly is making these terrible PR decisions? Like, who thinks, yeah, what we need to do today is we have to attack the dream. Just go at it and do not let up on the dream. I think I know the answer. I think it's someone who feels personally victimized by the dream. Show of hands, who feels personally victimized by Candace Owens' dreams? And to be honest, it's sort of hilarious that I didn't put two and two together sooner than today. So let's go backward, okay? In the immediate 3 weeks following Charlie's assassination, I was obviously in a haze. I'll be honest, I think I told you this before, but I was not sleeping, I was not eating, and I was having incredibly vivid dreams. I began dreaming like I hadn't dreamed since I was a child because it was every night. And to be honest, it was overwhelming. I didn't like it. I felt like Charlie was haunting me. It stressed me out. I expressed that to my husband through many tears. He told me that I should consult a priest, which I did. And we spoke about souls in purgatory. Anyway, today I feel that it is time to tell you the entirety of the repeat dream that I was having in those early weeks. It was actually a replay of an actual lunch that Charlie and I did have in the past. Back in 2018, Charlie and I went to Israel together. And in the dream, we were sitting in the exact same restaurant on a patio. And Charlie began the conversation saying something that he actually said, a real memory from that trip. Charlie was sitting on the patio and he was eating hummus. And he's like, this is the best hummus I've ever tasted in my life. A dramatic oversell. I always feel there are certain places that people hype so much that when you go there, you feel like you have to pretend it's the best thing you've ever experienced. Otherwise, you sort of let yourself down. It's like, this is the best ever. And truly, I didn't love Israel. I didn't love it even when I was a Zionist because it felt dangerous. You could sense the Muslims hated the Jews. It felt like we were on a tour. People were sneering at us. I just didn't love Israel. I've expressed that many times in the past, but Charlie was getting into the character. It was the greatest thing he had ever eaten. Anyways, the setting of this particular dream, however, had one dramatic difference. We were not there for the opening of the embassy. And this difference, by the way, I don't really understand yet. I'm just sharing it with you. Instead, we were there in this dream setting for Bibi Netanyahu's wife's funeral. Again, that makes entirely no sense. I've never met his wife. I've never spoken about his wife. I know nothing about his wife. So that's just the context of it. I don't make the rules of dream world. And obviously, as we were sitting there, it didn't strike me as weird because when you're in your dream state, everything that happens for some reason feels like, oh yeah, this is totally normal. Anyway, Charlie said to me, I don't have much time. He followed that up explaining to me that I needed to see what happened on his left. And he told me explicitly, they betrayed me, multiple people. And I said, I know, but who? Then came the frustrating part of the dream. Every time I would say who, you know, when you're in a dream and you go who, or you try to speak in the dream, and then suddenly you're actually speaking in real life and you start to wake yourself up from the dream by accident. That's what kept happening. And whenever I would try to listen to what he was saying, it sounded like he was underwater. So I was frustrated by this. I can't get to the part where you tell me who betrayed you. It wasn't until the third week after his death that finally one face came through in this dream. It came through as clear as day from around the corner of the restaurant. And it was Andrew Kovette's. Now you have to imagine, in the immediate aftermath of this, I was not thinking Turning Point USA. Where we're at today is almost like unimaginable going back there. In fact, I was very friendly with Andrew Kovette. We had spoken extensively in the aftermath of Charlie's death. I've known him for years, and I felt really weird about having seen him in this dream, but it was so vivid and it was so compelling that I felt that, as weird and as odd as it was, that I had to text him and tell him what I saw. And this is the text, just sharing with you so you guys know if this all really happened. I said, I rarely have vivid dreams, but I had one clear as day this weekend. Charlie came to me and he sat down and he told me that he did not have much time, that I needed to know that he was in fact betrayed and that they are hiding what happened to my left. I believe his soul is in purgatory, and I believe that you know much more than you've said publicly or privately. And Andrew Kovette never answered. It's the last time Andrew Kovette and I spoke. Now, of course, fast forward today, and we learn that it's been Andrew Kovette orchestrating all of these attacks, actually. Got caught red-handed. It's sort of ridiculous that I didn't just assume that earlier. But like I said, that's not where my brain went in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination. I thought, these are good guys who loved Charlie Kirk. But the question I'm now arriving at is why? Why, if it was just a dream, why does it require so much effort on the PR front? Why are we mocking dreams, right? Maybe it wasn't just a dream. In fact, thereafter, what I can tell you now is that two people within Andrew's inner circle reached out to me and told me that I should look more into Andrew Kovette, okay? I'm going to tell you another funny story because it now makes me, the irony of it is pretty thick. Back, and this is another story about me and Andrew, back when Charlie was alive and things were great, Andrew called me up. This was actually the end of, I want to say, ahead of AMFest. Yeah, the notorious AMFest that Tucker spoke at. Andrew called me up and he asked me, and I'm not kidding, in earnest, he asked me, "Are you a witch?" I laughed at him on the phone. I was in London and I said, "No, why? What a ridiculous thing to ask me." And he said, "Well, because we just noticed that when some people attack you, really bad things happen to them." And then he proceeded to tell me, which I did not know, quite horrifically, that Dennis Prager, who had just written this open article about me, and it was not done in a very nice way, had actually fallen, and he was very seriously injured. There was nothing funny about that. And that he was, having to speak out and type out of his mouth. And then he kind of went backwards and was like, the Daily Wire thing and the Jordan Peterson thing, and like bad things are happening to people after they attack you. So then I realized he was being serious. He was like asking that question seriously. And I remarked to him, "No, but I have really bad rebounds, not just from other people, but to me as well. I've explained this to you guys that if I do something bad, I immediately, the karma of it, I would experience. Like if I stole your phone today, it was just sitting on a counter and I stole it from a restaurant, I'd go back home and my house would be burned to the ground. That's my kind of very swift karma hits me fast." Anyways, the point is that despite this bizarre question that he asked me about witchcraft, it's him that's the one that's orchestrating all of these attacks. And they have been backfiring on Turning Point USA. And I now understand why exactly it is that he's been leading these attacks. And Liberty University was actually the key. We spoke about the Moonies cult, right? That's what we spoke about on Thursday. I told you guys all about this Korean man, Myung Moon, who was actually working for the CIA, Assad, while leading effectively what became a religious cult. They were buying up land, buildings, entire blocks, all these different companies, while convincing the masses that it was actually for the Father. Moon had minted himself as a Messiah. And then he got involved with Liberty University via Jerry Falwell Sr. And my conclusion of that episode was that the true aim of Turning Point USA Faith was to transform Charlie Kirk into a messiah of sorts, whose image that they could control in his death. And obviously an image that the public couldn't question because of how horrifically sad it was. We all watched him be assassinated. In fact, that might be the answer to the question, why did they want us to watch it? You wanted to kill Charlie Kirk, but why did you want the entire world to watch it and feel emotionally moved as we have been by this assassination? For good measure, I should now tell you that the Moonies cult was riddled with claims of sexual rituals, physical and psychological abuse, and of course, as we've covered already, financial corruption. So much financial corruption that it actually led to a political assassination in Japan. Remember 2022? Let's go back to 2022 in Japan, because and I'll tell you the reason behind this assassination, according to the person who committed it. Do you guys know how Turning Point USA has evolved from a charity asking for a check or asking for a one-time credit card donation to now asking for people to pledge their 401ks, their property, basically a means for the elderly they've established to include Turning Point USA in their wills? And doesn't that just feel a little bit icky? Doesn't that just open the door for old people, the elderly, going senile and then maybe accidentally signing away their lives before they die, their estates? Turning Point wants to be included in your grandma's estate planning. I don't like that vibe. Well, that is precisely the reason that the Moonies cult ended up leading to the assassination of the Prime Minister of Japan. The Prime Minister, do you remember him? Shinzo Abe, the longtime Prime Minister of Japan. He was shot and he was killed because a 41-year-old man blamed the Prime Minister, whose family did in fact have long-running ties to the Moonies Church, the Unification Church, as it's called, and whose cabinet was factually closely associated with the Unification Church. He blamed him for promoting that church, which eventually bankrupted his family. This is per the New York Times. They wrote, quote, "In an internal audit, the governing Liberal Democratic Party found that some 180 of its elected lawmakers, or almost half of its entire membership in Japan's parliament, either accepted donations or attended events held by the church and related organizations. That is ringing a bell here." Anyways, back to Abe. Abe's assassination was conducted by a man that was destitute and he was broke because of the Unification Church. They had brainwashed his mother in her old age, brainwashed her into giving the church all of his family's money, and she left her sons, his family, so destitute that he and his siblings often didn't even have enough money to eat, and they became so despondent that his brother committed suicide and he himself had attempted suicide. Again, I'm just telling you what happened factually, obviously not a justification for him to have assassinated the prime minister. But the story here is compelling, and if I'm being honest, that is exactly the strand of ick that I got as I was watching AMFest and this tent and like the microphone and like put into a case and set. It's like the ghost of Charlie. That's exactly the strand of ick that I got. Like everyone was on stage speaking about the Lord, but no one was actually meaning the Lord. It was instead watching a charismatic cult, people who were trained in tactics of manipulation, preying on weak minds of their followers, and people who actually love Charlie Kirk. And of course, that explains the Hollywood tint to it all as well. Anyways, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with Liberty University? Well, funny story. I was contacted by people who are still at Liberty University, still working in Liberty University's office, and they told me that I had a couple of things wrong. And I will say allegedly here, allegedly. They told me that Jerry Falwell Jr. was also taken down, unfairly taken down is what they said. Essentially, the entire pool boy scandal, that was the sex scandal that took out Jerry Falwell, and the circumstance which Jerry Falwell eventually spoke out about actually himself, confirming this person inside of events, was that his wife was indeed having an affair with the pool boy. And that affair was then used to generate a ton of articles and then used to force his ouster. out of the church. And this person claims that it was corrupt pastors, evangelical pastors, that wanted him out and wanted to put an end to the Falkirk Center. Okay, so to back this up, Charlie Kirk and Jerry Falwell came together and established what was the precursor to Turning Point Faith. I was around for that. The aim was to harness the energy of Charlie's brand with the youth and to turn that into ministry for evangelicals and to inspire young people to go to Liberty University, to sign up and to go to Liberty University, because Jerry Falwell Jr. had turned it into a very profitable school. And he had separated it from the church, wanting the finances not to be mingled with the church, which was something that his father had not done. There was no separation between the church and the school when Jerry Falwell Sr. was alive. Well, apparently the pastors who made a fortune while Jerry Falwell Sr. was alive did not like that. They did not like the separation of the church and the school. They wanted to profit from the school's earnings as they had done in the past. Again, I'm going to say allegedly. But this person inside, they've got access. So when Charlie Kirk came around and wanted to expand things in a way that would not directly benefit the church, they weren't so keen on that idea. Now, this person that I spoke to is my favorite kind of source because she disagrees with me passionately on the topic of Israel. She said, I have to speak up irrespective of that because what they did to Charlie is wrong. And they're lying about what happened. And I know that something is not right with these pastors because I know these men. So yeah, they established, Jerry Falwell, Charlie Kirk, the Falkirk Center in 2021. And I want you guys to remember that, interestingly enough, when Charlie Kirk was meeting at Liberty University about establishing that Falkirk Center, a certain Johnny Moore inserted himself into the meeting, the planning sesh, so to speak. He just pulled up a chair. Now, you remember I told you about this Johnny Moore character. At this time, in 2021, when he was back on their campus, there was no reason for Johnny to actually be there, even though he kind of grew up on the campus. He did. Johnny had been at that campus since he was 14 years old. We'll get into that. But he had quit his job as the lead pastor of Liberty University back in 2014. And yet here he was, coming up with a reason to be there, snooping into Charlie and the Falkirk Center. And you should know that when Johnny left Liberty University in 2014, he went to Hollywood to start the PR company, the Kairos Company. Andrew Kovette, he was a part of the Kairos Company. You'll recall that. He's Johnny Moore's partner, protege, I don't know what you want to call it. But when that Kairos Company got established, Andrew Kovette was the executive vice president, and he effectively was working for the Kairos Company, Andrew Kovette, and then got hired to be the PR guy for Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. Another interesting point that this source told me is that Johnny Moore, despite going to Hollywood in 2015 to work with, and I should mention here, Mark Burnett, it's who he went to go work for. Mark Burnett is a very big name in reality TV world. If you're in your head like I did immediately when I thought about that, I was like, wait, wasn't Erika on a show randomly? What's the show called Summer House in 2019? Interestingly enough, when Mark Burnett took over MGM, became the chairperson of MGM, they did acquire, he owned Summer House. So that's interesting. So there could be a connection there. There could not be one, but I'd be interested to know who her PR person was there. And I will ask how she got on the show.